Before we begin to go through the different case types, let's go through a little bit of terminology. This is a thing that I like to throw out there to a lot of people because it's confusing, because we use a lot of terms that maybe you've never heard of before. First, there's a term called a libellus. The libellus is your petition. Okay? Liber, your book, your little book that you're going to create to make your declaration of nullity, your petition for a declaration of nullity. There's the tribunal. The tribunal is the body of judges that is going to adjudicate your petition. Does this have merit before the eyes of God and before the whole human community? Can we really say that this marriage did not arrive at the level of what we know marriage to be? So the tribunal is your court. Okay? Your case sponsor, right? Case sponsor is the person that's going to assist you in making your petition to the tribunal. The case sponsor is the person that's going to assist you at the beginning, the first stages of this process, to make your petition to the tribunal. Most of the time, that's your parish priest or a deacon, or there are some lay sponsors, lay case sponsors that have been trained to assist you in making your petition before the tribunal. Now, sometimes at the tribunal, you get an advocate. An advocate is like the one who speaks on your behalf, right? Argues your case for you. Sometimes the tribunal will assign an advocate. Sometimes you can request an advocate if you feel that your case needs a little more technical arguing before the judge. Now, who are the people besides these two? Well, you become the petitioner. If you're making a petitioner, you become the petitioner. Your former spouse has a right to respond. We ask them to respond, and so they become the respondent. Okay? Respondent. Okay, so that's another person. There's two other terms we want to have. There's one other person in this tribunal that you need to be aware of, and that is the defender of the bond. Defender of the bond. Now, in marriage cases, it's not a contention between he said, she said, right? It's not two parties going at it before a judge. Okay, you want to keep that clear. It's you petitioning the judge saying that your marriage, your consent, for some reason was invalid, and that the judge is adjudicating and the other party is marriage itself. Okay? The bond of marriage. You are attacking the bond of marriage that bound you, or still does, until you declare it null. So there's another party here, the defender of the bond. Marriage gets its own defense lawyer. Okay? Because we honor marriage so much, and because it's such a stabilizing factor in society, we don't want to just, is that what you? Okay, no problem. We'll just do whatever you want. No, we have a vested interest in healthy, good marriages and protecting marriage, right? So the defender of the bond's job is to have as his client the bond of marriage. So keep that in mind. There's somebody that's arguing for the validity of the marriage no matter what. Okay? And then finally, there are the grounds of nullity. So the grounds of nullity are going to be things that you may or may not have to go through, depending on your case type. The grounds of nullity are going to be the reasons in law why you would attack the validity of your marriage. We'll get into that a little later. Now, there are two outcomes generally of a process when you make a petition and you ask the judges to decide. They either give an affirmative decision. Yes, there is enough as evidence here that will allow for us to declare your marriage did not rise up to that level of what we know valid marriage to be in the eyes of God. Affirmative. The proofs are there. And that means that you would be able to seek marriage again, to remarriage. You would be given back your right to marry. The second is the negative decision. Now, a lot of people get the negative decision and they think, oh boy, the church didn't give me my nullity. Well, of course, it's not a matter of giving or taking. It's not a matter of just buying or selling. It's a matter of discovering the truth of the matter. These judges, having God before their eyes in the judgment on the last day, having to really stand before the Lord, who is the judge of all, and say, yeah, here's, Lord, what you said marriage is, what we know it to be, and here are the proofs. No, we can't. We don't see it. We can't prove it. Now, when you get a negative decision, it doesn't necessarily mean your marriage is not valid. What it means is the judges cannot prove it. They don't see the proofs. You haven't provided sufficient proof. Maybe there isn't sufficient proof to be had. A negative decision does not necessarily mean your marriage is valid. It just means that we have to continue to presume its validity. And that's one point that I'd like to make. The reason why we're here is that the church presumes your marriage to be valid. When you stand up before the Lord or before the community or before the justice of the peace, even if you're not Catholic, and you say, I do, we presume that marriage to be valid and binding until we can prove otherwise. Okay? You have a right to marry as a human being, but you only have a right to marry once, right? At a time. Sometimes if your spouse dies, until death do us part, right? You have the right to marry once and do it well, do it right. Now, a declaration of nullity process will say, well, you didn't really use that right, or that right was used, but it was defective, and so we give you your right to marry back. So that's what the process is about. So a declaration of nullity, affirmative sentence, you would have the right to marry. A negative decision simply means we were not able to prove under that ground, that reason, that your marriage was null. Okay.